Okay, hello everybody. Welcome into this episode of Unwritten. My name is Colin McGuire, co-host. My co-host is Jess. How are you, Jess?
I'm good, Colin. How are you?
I don't believe you when you say you're good. You don't look like you're happy, but we'll push through. We have a very special guest today, Christian Rose, a superstar, perhaps one of the most famous people we've ever had on here. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. How are you guys doing?
Good. Now, this was actually full transparency. This was Jess's idea to get you on here. From what I understand, you're becoming a pretty big deal in the world of racing. If you want to, I think I have you down. Was it 2018 when you started?
Yes. Yeah, 2018 is when this whole journey came together. So 3 years now in the making.
So what led you to that? Can you just kind of take us through how you got there?
Yeah, so our path, and we kind of try to share as best we can, is that it was different than every driver pretty much that's ever been out there. I was a college baseball player. I played baseball my whole life, and I really thought that's the route I would end up going. And I'd always had a huge passion for racing. I've watched every race, qualifying, practice. Like, I was a huge Jeff Gordon fan growing up. So, I got to go to Daytona. Mom bought me tickets, and I happened to sneak in the garage at a younger age. And I got to meet a couple guys that worked for BJ McLeod, who owns his own Cup team and Xfinity team now in NASCAR. And they basically told me, it's something that if you have interest in, we'll give you a shot to see what you can do. So I come home all excited to tell Mom about it. And she's like, well, you're going to finish your degree. So went through college, finished the degree, and we were sitting on the couch in the summer 2018 watching a race. And I was just sitting there. I was like, Mom, I really, baseball was good to me, very good to me for a long time. But I believe racing would have been what I could have made my career in and taken a strong hold to. And she was like, well, just call BJ back to see if there's an offer there. And we basically just had a one-day test, and it was pretty much we'll see what you do, but this is just we'll get you a suit made, a helmet, and you can hang it in your office one day kind of deal. They didn't expect me to go out, and we were pretty quick. So they told us, let's go racing from there. And we've been doing it ever since.
How crazy is it to think you've come so far since then?
It's been pretty wild. Like, to watch the progression, I feel like from where we started to where we are now, there's still a lot of work I need to do to be a better race car driver. But from where we started to where we are 3 years into this process is pretty incredible. And I think we have some big opportunities going forward on allowing all the stuff, the resources, everything we put into this to allow us to get better and hopefully start clicking some wins off here pretty soon.
I want to get this right because this is important. You were, quote, a rookie to keep an eye on, according to various publications. How's that sort of feel? I mean, if you're having this amount of success as a rookie, do you have a 3 or 5 year plan in front of you?
I've always said my goal is to be a Cup champion one day, and until we get to that level, which I know it sounds absurd and crazy, and people in the motorsports world are probably going to laugh at me saying that, but I honestly believe you shoot for the stars, and there's no looking back. So that's our goal. That's where I want to be in 5 years. I'm not saying we're going to win a Cup championship in 5 years, but obviously that's where we want to be in the Cup Series in 5 to 6 years, and knowing that we got a later start on this deal. But I believe anything's possible, and the work ethic and the coaches I've had that have built that trust in me and everything growing up playing baseball, I think it's allowed me to have success very early on in the racing career. But for me, we've had some success, but to me, it's just a start. I think there's a lot more to tap into and a lot further we can go. So I try not to listen to that or let that feed into me too much, because I think there's still a lot of progress to be made. I think the last race we had probably a top 3 car, maybe the fastest car in the longest runs. And I just made some rookie mistakes on the restarts. And those are things that I learn and look forward to getting better at as we go.
You're talking about progression, becoming a better driver. We know in baseball, you hit, pitch, throw, take ground balls, condition. How do you get better as a driver?
I think I've really taken to the mental side of this a lot more. It's something I wish I would have put more time into as a baseball player, because I think it would have made me a lot better player. But there's watching film, there's watching drivers that are very successful. When we're hanging on the weekend, most people are going out on Friday and Saturday night. I'm sitting here watching a truck race and the Xfinity race, trying to watch everything they're doing and listen to what the drivers are communicating back. And that's the cool thing about listening to a lot of these broadcasts is they let you have access to the radios and hear what the drivers are saying and what adjustments they're making. And I think the more you listen to it, the more you're around it. My race team I race for now, Bruce Cook's got me in the race shop a lot. We're at the racetrack when I'm not racing, and all those things have progressed and allowed me to be a better driver. So those are just a few things I think that help, but all of them coming together and just using that as a study session really makes you a better race car driver.
Outside of the obvious differences in terms of, throwing and hitting and running and driving, what are the sort of the things between the biggest kind of distance between racing and playing baseball? What was the toughest thing to adjust to?
Toughest thing for me is like baseball. I knew what I had to do. I've done it for my whole life. So like I knew when I went on the field what felt right, what didn't feel right, how to make an adjustment to, okay, well, my fastball's not working today. Well, I got to work on my slider better today, or I got to go to the changeup. Racing, I had no idea like how to, when I first started, what to do to be better, how to be better. And the craziest difference I'd say for most people that I try to explain it to is baseball. If you make a mistake, you give up a home run or a double in the gap and you get a ball back and then you go right back to work. Racing, what I've learned is over the years, you got to drive a car so hard to the edge, but not overdrive it. And if you overdrive that edge by just a little bit, you're wrecked. You're in the wall and the car's destroyed and that's it. Your night's over. So there's no really room for error in the race car versus playing a normal sport, because that one mistake ends your night, tears a lot of stuff up, and then puts the team to work to fix a race car. And that doesn't make a race team too happy when you do that. So
you kind of mentioned the instinct that some of the better baseball players have naturally. Do you feel that in the race car as well?
I feel like I've been able to take to it. I wouldn't call it instinct. I don't necessarily would say. I think it's just being prepared and watching my whole life. Like I've done nothing but watch racing since I was 5 years old. And when I say that, I've watched every practice session, every qualifying session, everything that you could possibly watch as a fan growing up. And I think I've been able to take that and apply it in the race car. And it's allowed the learning curve to be a little easier for me as we've gone. So I think there's still, like I said, a lot of room to be better, but I think there is some instinct and stuff that I've learned as we've gone. And I've been able to apply it more and more. And like I said, Bruce, and then I got a really good teammate named Amber Slagle, and the people I can lean on in the race shop we're in right now really have helped me. I've been fortunate that I've always been around good people in the sport, and I could sit here for an hour and thank name after name after name that's allowed me to have this opportunity. So it's just all of that coming together, and I can't be more thankful and grateful for all those people that have allowed me to do this so far.
What is a day? What is a day for you? I'm kind of like wondering about the mechanics. You're a professional driver, correct? Like this is what you do.
Right. I guess so. Yeah, that's the way we kind of word it now as professional stock car driver. And I guess we have now made it into the NASCAR ranks a little bit in the ARCA series. But a typical day for me is we get up and we start making sponsor calls, because this sport rolls off of sponsor money. I don't care how much talent you got to have some funding behind you. So it's waking up and picking the phone up and sending email after email after email, knowing that you're going to get 10,000 no's in the sport until you get one, and that one can change your life forever. So it's always the progression of pushing yourself to, stay motivated, even though like there's weeks where we'll get told no 10 times, 15 times, and it can beat you down, but you can't give up in it. So really the business side of it's more of a day-to-day basis. And then when we're winding down at night or something, I'll sit there and watch the film on a race weekend we have coming up or something, and prepare myself to get ready for that race.
Speaking of sponsorships, I was just on your Instagram looking at the West Virginia car. How cool is it to have your home state there represented on your car through a sponsorship now?
Yeah, it's been that's been a dream come true. It's been incredible. When we first started in this sport, I would have never in a million years thought we'd had the state of West Virginia and tourism on board the race car. But any chance we get to share the story and share that we're from West Virginia and put it on the racetrack and take it across the country. I mean, we had fans coming up to us in Las Vegas and Sacramento that were pumped to see West Virginia on the car. So when you're all the way across the country and you see people that respect the state of West Virginia and they love what we're doing with it and everything, it's pretty cool to be able to make that happen. And everybody from the state that's allowed us to do that and carry their banner and colors has been incredible. So I can't thank them enough for believing in me.
I feel like you can't go anywhere and not meet someone from West Virginia.
You can't. You can, and it's a very prideful. It's not like other states where you ask somebody where you're from, and they're like, "Oh, I'm from Virginia or Maryland." When you say West Virginia, say, "Oh, what part?" You know, you get that really exciting vibe to somebody on being from West Virginia. So it's very cool.
You just said that when you were in Las Vegas and you had fans come up to you. When I'm in Las Vegas, I don't have fans come up to me, sadly. But that kind of brings up the notion of travel with all of this, especially on race weeks. How often are you on the road? How often are you home?
Yeah, so the last 3 weeks we've been on the road a lot. It was a lot of cross country flights. We went to Las Vegas. We stayed out there for I think 3 or 4 days, and we flew back out here. And then we started preparing, knowing we're going back in a week, and then for Sacramento. So we flew out the next Monday. So if everything goes right in the way we want it to next year, and in a heavy schedule, there's not a lot of time you spend at home. It's a lot of time on the road, and it's just trying to adjust to that and learn. You know, that's part of the sport and part of what you got to do. So there is a lot of time on the road, but I kind of enjoy it because it gives me some time to put my headphones in and really just kind of focus on what we're getting ready to do that weekend.
Speaking of home, last time you and I talked, it was about your partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, the Eastern Panhandle. Yes. For maybe some of our listeners who haven't read the story, could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so what we made a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club this past summer, and in doing so, what we're trying to do is really preach the triple play initiative. That's mind, body, spirit. And as a former college athlete, and as somebody who firmly believes in all of that and teaching children, I think that's a very important message that we're trying to share to get to the youth, and really trying to share that chasing your dream is possible. I'm from the Eastern Panhandle. I'm from West Virginia. And whenever we can share the story to the kids and talk to them about, this is what I'm doing, I never thought I had the opportunity to do it, that it's something that if you dream, whether it's being an attorney or whether it's being a doctor, or if you want to play professional baseball, whatever it might be, if you're willing to put the time, the work, and the effort into it, you can make it happen. So in doing that, we're also donating $5 back per lap. That's sponsored for us this year. So we just raised $1,500, I think, this past 2 weeks for the Boys and Girls Club. And I think that's going to be something more exciting as we bring in a longer season to the table for next year, hopefully.
Now, I read this on your site. I wanted to ask you about this because there was a blurb on there that said that you are dyslexic. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
So how has that played into your career and your athleticism, even playing baseball and now racing cars? I mean, you're working through a lot, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've had to adjust to. I'm just starting to really have to adjust to it in racing, because the newer cars that I'm racing in the ARCA series, there's a lot more switches and fans and gears and everything that you got to run. Or like gear fans, I didn't mean gears, but gear fans, brake fans, everything that goes into the race car. So there's certain ones you run under caution, and there's certain ones you run while you're running or you're racing. So that's definitely something I've had to adjust to. The team has actually helped me this past weekend. They came up with like a color coded system for me to, know which ones to run under caution, which ones for me to run while we're racing. And that's a huge part, because if you mess those fans up, it can really affect the handling of the race car. So that's been the racing side of it. But for the baseball side of it, like if we had an add and subtract system half the time for our signs as a pitcher. So to give you an example, if we went 4, if the catcher went 4 or 2, you take 4, subtract 2, and you would know that's your change up or your slider, or whatever off-speed pitch you had on that one. So it would be really easy for me to mess that up. So those are things that I've had to learn to adjust with through baseball and racing, but it's been a challenge I've welcomed and not taken easy to. So it's been pretty cool to see how we've gotten better at handling those situations.
When persevering through that too, does that help you, with the relationship with the Boys and Girls Club, does that kind of inspire you to want to help out the kids?
Absolutely. There's so many avenues I want to help with those kids. And like I said, that whatever they could ask me, if there's any kid that's dyslexic in the club, I'd love to be able to share my experiences with them and what's allowed me to be better in life. One of the hardest things I have is sending emails. And when we're doing the sponsor stuff and everything, is double checking, making sure my stuff's spelled right, making sure I've got all the punctuation where it's supposed to be. I really struggled in high school and college with that. It's something I used to be really hesitant to share with people, but the older I've gotten, the more mature we've gotten as we've gone, the more I'm willing to share that story. And it's not been the easiest for me, but I'd love to share that story with the kids and whatever might help them going forward.
Dyslexia is something a lot of kids deal with and maybe don't even realize it. Would you be open to sharing how you figured out you're dyslexic?
Yeah, so I had a teacher, I want to say it was in high school, that called my mom and was like, he's struggling in math and he's struggling in the English room. And they kind of had an idea I was dyslexic. So we went and saw a doctor in Martinsburg and he gave me a series of tests and everything. And it confirmed I was dyslexic. So there was just something that was a challenge I had to accept. I was very, not wanting to accept that when I was younger. I was like, I'm fine. I don't have an issue or anything. But the older I've gotten, the more I've been willing to accept that and understand it's something I'm going to have to work through. And it's going to be with me my whole life. But it's not anything I'm worried about or sad about or depressed about. It's just part of life, and it's not a crazy thing, but it's something that you do have to work through on a daily basis.
Were you going to say something, Jess? It looked like you were going to say something. Okay. Those types of, like, having to work through your own personal issues in that way while also achieving a certain level of success. I mean, what other things do you find yourself having to work through internally to achieve and get to where you want to go outside of, being dyslexic?
I'd say the hardest thing is just trying to be mentally strong, and that's in any business or anything you do. No matter what you do, people are going to try to bring you down, and there are always negatives to the positives, and you got to find a way to cancel that stuff out. I've made my mistakes on the racetrack. I've made my mistakes on the baseball field, and there's always a critic or somebody's going to say something about it. But the coolest thing is just trying to learn how to work through that process. I've seen athletes talk about it. I've seen my idols talk about it growing up. And now being in that situation, I've seen it happen firsthand. And it's just something you got to understand, you got to deal with. And that's been a huge thing over the last couple of months. But I've really gotten better at blocking that stuff out and just focusing on me and really pushing myself to just focus on what my job is and go do it. The gym, I'm a big athlete in the gym. I love to work out. I love CrossFit. That's something I do probably 5 days a week. And I think that's been a huge outlet for me when I'm having a bad day or questioning, is this something I'm meant to do? Or, because everybody, I don't care what sports you're in, and there's always those questions at certain times when you're struggling, like, is this what you're supposed to be doing? And the gym and all that stuff has been a huge factor. And I don't think I had those questions as much as I did when I first started, because we've definitely started to have some success, but those are some of the things I deal with a little bit.
The successes are including top 10 finishes now. Are you taking time to celebrate? How exciting is that moment to be in the top 10?
It was really exciting for the first one, because that was our goal, was to go run all the laps and run on the lead lap. And we were going to do that, but we got spun out, I think, with like 50 to go. And I couldn't get the car fired up in time, and we lost the lap there. But we were fast enough to run lead lap in that first race. The second race, the 7th place, to me was disappointing, because I know we had driven up the 5th under green flag conditions. And I really think had we stayed green, our long run car, we were fine. We were running the leaders down. I really think we had a shot to finish in the top 3, if not win the race. So I was very disappointed when I got out of the car. Everybody's very happy and upbeat, but it's one of those things as a competitor when you know that you should have finished better, or you had an opportunity to finish better, and knowing that it just didn't come to fruition, that was a little disappointing. But looking back, I'm happy with it now, but I still think there's places that I could have been better. The 33 car was the guy that won the race, and we passed him on the green with 35 laps to go. So that was a little frustrating, knowing that we were faster than the car that won the race, but that's part of racing.
Please forgive me, because I don't know much about racing, and that's why I'm very unequipped for this job, but I'm here, so we're going to make it work. You're a part of a team, correct? Yes. And
this is a very much a team sport.
Yeah. And is this like other sports where you hope to get to a different team on a different level, or do you keep the team throughout your whole journey?
It's very different in how that works. The team I'm with right now, I don't see us leaving for a while. They've been very good to me. They've been Bruce, and I can't even begin to tell you how good Bruce is as crew chief and what he's been able to do for me in my career. If you watch how we were finishing last year to where we are now, even over the last 6 months, and we've gotten night and day better. And it's a huge factor of what he's been able to do and what he brings equipment wise and the personnel that he has working on his race cars. But you do progress through the different ranks, and you typically see drivers end up with different teams as it goes. But that's really not something you think about too much, because the team, when you're with the team that you're having success with, that's where you want to be at. That's where we are right now. And Bruce runs in the ARCA series and truck series. And if we're lucky enough to advance through those series and get an opportunity to go Xfinity racing at some point down the road, then that's a situation where you'd probably see me end up with a different team. But for now, I see us sticking with Bruce and the whole Cook Racing Technologies race team.
You know, racing has, you mentioned the truck series and everything, so many different variations. Would you ever be open to a different series, like outside of stock cars or trucks or anything?
So I've been asked that question before. If it's got 4 wheels and it's willing to race and there's a seat for me to hop into it, I'm sure we're not going to say no to that. So I'm a racer at heart. I've done this now for 3 years. I know that's crazy for me to say I'm a racer at heart, but I love racing, everything about it. So it could be just racing in a straight line drag race, whenever it is. If there's an opportunity for us to go do it, we'll hop on board for it for sure.
Drag racing would have to be fun.
Yeah, definitely would. Definitely different than what I'm doing now, but if there was an opportunity for us to go do it, and it's not going to I mean, I obviously want to be in the stock car world and in the NASCAR world, but with the right opportunity, if they present themselves, there's obviously a hard time to say no to some of those situations.
What kind of driver are you outside of racing? Like when you're on the highway, I spent a lot of hours driving this past weekend, and I hated everybody because they're just people doing this and that and blah, blah,
Right.
blah. How about you? How are you on the highway?
I don't know if I should answer that question. No, I feel like I'm pretty good at drive. So I do have a 6-speed Hemi, a 6'4" Challenger Scat Pack. And it is a 6-speed, and I love to let that thing rip from time to time, but I feel like I'm pretty safe. I do everything I'm supposed to do. I wear my seatbelt. I'm not stupid on the road, but there are moments where I get pretty irritated and agitated with people that I feel like don't know how to drive. And you might hear me say a few choice words in my own car if I was ever on speakerphone. But no, I feel like, all joking aside, I feel like I'm pretty good and pretty safe. I've only gotten 1 ticket in the last 3-4 years, and that was actually a couple months ago. And I was probably about 15 miles an hour over. So my fault on that one, but not too bad, I would say.
Did you say, do you know who I am? I'm a famous driver.
The cop asked me if we were coming from the racetrack, and I told him yes, and it didn't matter. So, yeah.
What's that like, having people recognize you, even just a police officer in a basic traffic stop?
I don't think he recognized me, but he knew we were coming from the racetrack. But I've had some experiences. When I was at home a couple months ago, I had a guy stop on the side of the road and pull over and ask if I was the driver. I was mowing the lawn for my mom, and he asked if I was the kid from Martinsburg Racing. I was like, yeah, and he had me sign his hat right there, and cars going around him and everything. So I've had a few experiences like that, and it's been pretty cool. I am not used to it, and I feel like the further up we go, probably there'll be some more experiences like that. But it's obviously very humbling and feels very good when those moments happen.
I can't get over the idea, and we don't have to harp on it too much, but I think we glossed over the fact that you snuck into the garages at Daytona. How did that happen? And then not only that happened, but it also led to really cool things and good things for you. So what, did you just like crawl under a hood and you were there? Did you take a secret place? How did that happen?
So if anybody that listens to this is familiar with the garage area in Daytona, when you walk in, there's a fan zone area, and that allows you to buy, I think it's like $75 to $100 ticket. And it allows you to look into the windows and watch the teams work, and you get to see the drivers. And there's certain places you can go to have more access to the drivers. But when you're walking into where you would check your bag, like any other security walking in a professional event or something, you go to the right, the media center's right there, and there's a gate that goes right back to the garage area. And I noticed that over the first couple of years going there. And for some reason that year, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a shot at it. And I walked around the corner, and they were setting up for the driver's meeting, and there was no security guard there. And I managed to just put my head down, keep walking. And after I got about maybe 50 feet to 100 feet into the garage area, I was like, wow, this worked. And then I got really confident, and I walked around the pit road, and I tried to walk out on pit road. And then I had a guy stop me and ask me where my pass was, and he kicked me out. But I went right back around. I was like, snuck back into the backside of the garage. I was like, okay, I just know I can't go out front anymore. So that's pretty much how that happened. But I don't know what gave me the instinct or the idea of doing that, but I'm very glad I did, because I don't know where I'd be if that didn't happen.
If you just act like you belong, you belong.
That's the way, yeah, that's the way I've really done things. So I read the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and I really think that was a big one for me in my life. But yeah, it's been pretty cool that turned into what it has.
You mentioned Jeff Gordon as one of your favorite drivers growing up. Who in the driving world do you draw inspiration from or do you learn from?
There's different ones and different series, but the guy I watch the most nowadays is Kyle Larson. That guy can absolutely wheel the heck out of anything. I don't care if it's a go-kart, probably he could hop on a unicycle and win a race on it. I mean, whatever he gets in, he seems to win. So it's like watching, it's not just really racing for me. I watch all sports. Like I've always watched Derek Jeter's career. I've watched a lot of stuff on Michael Jordan, and I've obviously watched Tom Brady a lot. So I think if you want to be successful in whatever you do, you watch the people that are very good at what they do and try to learn from them and take notes on what makes them as good as they are at what they do. So Kyle's definitely the guy in the NASCAR role for me, but there's a lot of people, even my mom's a huge inspiration for me. So you just watch successful people and try to learn and be one of them.
Well, we like to end these things with a bunch of fun questions. And in this case, that will most likely have nothing to do with driving. So is that okay with you? If we ask you a few things that nothing to do with cars and sneaking into Daytona, which by the way, this podcast is now the source for anybody who wants to sneak into Daytona. I'll start out with this question. Whenever you're away from West Virginia, what do you miss the most? When you come back, what do you want to experience the most?
Yeah, for me, it's getting out and doing the trails and hiking and getting out in the woods. I'm a very outdoors guy, so the Harpers Ferry area is very important to me. I love going down there on the riverbanks and having my friends, and we'll go out there and toss some fishing lines out. That's probably one of the most important, but family and friends are the friendships and the people I grew up with from the state. You know, I've got a lot of friends outside of the state, but to me, the ones that I've made there are very special to me, and knowing that, you know, we're all from the state and we all have very strong ties and pride in it. Those are two of the biggest things for me when I come home.
You mentioned your headphones being in when you're traveling. What is it that you're listening to?
It's a variety of everything. I'm a big country music fan, but I mean, I'll have anything from Tupac to Jason Aldean playing. It really, when I turn shuffle on, you really don't know what you're going to get out of it.
If I'm going to go out to eat in Martinsburg, where should I go?
Habanero.
Habanero.
That's my place. I love it. Whenever I have anybody that's not from the state, my manager Evan's from Boston, and that's whenever he comes to Martinsburg, he's like, "When are we going?" So that's where we go. It's either there or Peking for me. Those are the top two.
Okay.
You also mentioned reading outside of Matthew McConaughey's book, which I'm going to have to read now.
It's a very good book. So the one I'm reading right now is Lone Survivor. I've really taken more on to wanting to read more. I didn't used to do that, obviously, with the dyslexia issue, but I've really started to really take to it. So I just finished up Green Lights a couple months ago, and now I'm finishing up Lone Survivor. Mental Gym was one I finished up before that. So there's a wide variety, but I want to get into some more business kind of books and start learning finance and all that stuff a little more. But yeah, just trying to keep an open mind and learn as much as possible through reading.
Have you seen the Lone Survivor movie before?
I have. It's one of my favorite movies, and the story is truly inspirational. Anybody who's never seen it, I fully recommend it.
What is your favorite cartoon character?
Oh, wow. I guess I got to say Speed Racer, right?
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yep. Yeah.
I'll go more specific then. Who's your favorite superhero?
So I've never really been into the superhero side, but if I had to do one, it'd probably be Batman. I like the all black. I like the idea of it. That'd probably be my guy.
That's the right answer.
Did you see the new trailer for the new movie?
I have not. So I'll be honest, I haven't watched a lot of superhero movies at all. I'm more into scary movies and that kind of stuff. So I just went and saw the new Halloween. That's been more my cup of tea. I was a huge fan. If you can get through the first 45 to 50 minutes, the ending is incredible.
I thought the same thing. I liked how it picked up directly, like the first two. Yeah, I just loved it.
I was a big fan. I was waiting for that movie. I was so disappointed when it got canceled last year and pushed to this year. So I'm excited to see how it ends next year.
What is your dream hike?
Dream hike. It's probably somewhere out in Colorado or Montana, somewhere out there in the higher elevations. Anywhere across West Virginia, I'm never opposed to. But just getting to see some new areas, maybe Washington State, some of those places that are really, really outdoorsy as well. I feel like I've accomplished a lot of this stuff throughout the state of West Virginia, but being able to get out and see some of those places would be pretty cool.
Is there any place that you haven't traveled to that you still want to go to?
Getting out of the country more, the islands. I really want to go see the Caribbean. I had never been to Europe. My sister's been to a lot of places I haven't. So those are a few places on my bucket list for sure. Hawaii is probably one of my favorite places I've ever been. And I got a good friend that's in the military that just got stationed out there. So I have a reason for some free rent now. So hopefully we can get back out there soon.
What's your favorite television show?
So it's either Friends or The Ranch for me. I was a huge Friends fan growing up, and then the Ranch on Netflix was one of my favorite shows, or still is one of my favorite shows. So those are probably my top two. I've been a big TV show guy. I just finished watching Squid Games. I was one of the guys that bandwagoned onto that, and that was pretty good. But yeah, I'd say Friends is probably my favorite one.
Christian, you're my best friend because I have Marcel socks on right now.
I like that. I like that a lot.
What's your favorite concert that you've ever been to?
Favorite concert. So I was a huge Fort Hill Georgia Line fan growing up, and my sister got me tickets for Luke Bryan, Fort Hill Georgia Line, and I think it was Thompson Square was with them back in 2013. So they were really good. And then Lee Greenwood was somebody I got to see with my mom very young in Atlantic City. So that was a very cool one too.
Great. We'll get you out of here on this one. This is always the hardest one that nobody answers. Actually, nobody ever answers the food question, but you did that really quick. So I appreciate that. Very
Absolutely.
If you could have dinner with anybody dead or alive, 3 people, who would they be?
Wow. Okay. George Strait, probably number 1.
Okay.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, number 2.
Yeah.
And then probably, I'd say somebody like Bruce Willis.
Okay.
On that lines.
Okay, that's fair enough. And that's the bottom line.
And that's the bottom line.
That's right. Christian Rose, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Is there anything you want to say? Any events coming up you want people to know about?
We're working on some big plans for next year. We're working on a few more late model races throughout this year, but I obviously want to thank the state of West Virginia and Department of Tourism for coming on board and allowing me to have the opportunity to represent them the last couple of races. Boys and Girls Club, obviously, huge shout out to them and whatever we're able to do to help them. If anybody wants to donate, go on my Facebook page or Instagram page and you'll see the text to link. And we were really trying to push that. So any donation helps the boys and girls. It goes a long way for them. And then Blackjack Distillery and all of our partners. I just can't thank them enough for allowing me to do this. My mom, my dad, and everybody, there's a lot of people that make this go around, and it's not just a one-man show. So.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. You just got to promise that in 5 years, when you're a big superstar, you come back on YouTube with us again. So.
Absolutely. You got my word for it.
Christian Rose, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.